Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, LLC. We hope your day was filled with powerful possibilities, which you recognize and to which you were able to respond with positive results. Today, we welcome the authors of the upcoming anthology, Courage in Cannabis, envisioned by Dr. Bridget Williams. Dr. Williams is a board-certified family physician and medical director of Green Harvest Health, a medical cannabis clinic in Ohio. We look forward to sharing with you, our audience, insights and experiences surrounding this controversial topic. Our first guest today is Joe Brennan. Joe Brennan is from Columbus, Ohio. There he is well known as the CBD guy. His notoriety is attached to the tragic fact of losing 2 family members in deaths attributed to pharmaceuticals. He is here with us to share his experience, strength, and hope as a contributing author to the anthology, Courage in Cannabis. Welcome, Joe.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Yes, welcome, Joe. Wow. So give us a little background on how you got on this road.
Yeah, definitely. It all started back in 2013. My father had been on pharmaceuticals for about 15 years at that time. 15 years prior to that, he cut his arm building a fence in his backyard, and it basically disabled him. He lost pretty much all of his blood, and he went right to immediate surgery. They put him all back together, and of course, they put him on pharmaceuticals from that point forward, Percocet, amitriptyline, just to name a couple of them. And he was on that medication for about 15 years straight. He was calling the doctor and telling them, this isn't working. This, it's making me feel terrible. And they would just change the medication to some other type of pharmaceutical. And it just went on and on like that for about 15 years. So one day out of the blue, he just went into the hospital with liver and kidney failure. And basically that was due to all those pharmaceuticals had just shut his liver and his kidneys down. And so he spent the next couple months in and out of the hospital, and it ended up resulting in my younger brother and I having to pull the plug on our dad in ICU because he just wasn't, there wasn't any liver transplants available and all of that. Now at the time, my little brother, he's 20 years younger than me. He was 13 years old. And so him and I basically had to stand there and watch our father pass right in front of our eyes, hear the beep, go after, the heart rate stops and all that kind of stuff. And so, that was pretty devastating, to say the least. And then a couple months later, his brother, my Uncle Tim, got diagnosed with lung cancer and started taking chemo and passed away just a couple months after that. Now, my dad was 61 years old. And my uncle was 50 years old. And so that is very, very young for them to pass away. And right after my Uncle Tim got was taking the chemo and all that stuff, they said this last round of chemo will probably be the one that does him in. That's what they said. And so they gave him a pill of chemo, and literally within 24 hours, he had passed away. And so, yeah, I sat at his bedside while he was in the transition of passing away. And I just remember a couple months previous to that, he was comforting me on how to deal with my father's passing. And so here he is just a couple months later in the exact same situation. And so he passed away. And then right after that, about a month or so after that, I was flipping through the news and I saw something on the TV, which looked like a kid having a seizure, and it looked like somebody putting oil under their tongue. And I quickly went back and found the station as fast as I could. And it was the Charlotte's Web story, the Charlotte Figge story from Colorado. And on CNN, the Weed One episode. And I saw that, and I saw her mom, Paige, putting the oil under her daughter's tongue and it stopping the seizure in 30 seconds. And as I saw that, I just started weeping like a little baby in joy for this little girl. And something just kind of came over me and said, you couldn't help your dad and your Uncle Tim with this, but you're going to go help the world with this starting right now. So I literally took that to heart. And at the time I was doing real estate. I'd been a real estate agent for about 15 years at that time. And so, rental properties, flipping houses, doing really well in the real estate industry. And I basically just kind of put that on the back burner and kind of gave that up, so to speak, and went full bore into CBD. I went and purchased, I maxed out my credit card and bought all the CBD that I could buy from a company called Plus CBD. And that was one of the biggest name companies out there at the time that I could find that was reputable. And, my dad always said, he said, Joe, if you want to do something good in this life, help somebody. And that was his motto to me ever since I was a little kid. And so that kind of just resonated with me. And I really took that to heart. I thought, okay, I'm going to go help somebody. I'm going to turn this tragedy into triumph, and I'm going to go out and just change the world with this. And that was my motto. So I went and bought this CBD, and this was back in 2013. So, very few people heard of CBD at this time. Very few people were talking about the endocannabinoid system and terpenes and, all these different terms that are pretty standard today. Mm-hmm. But I would go out and give the CBD away to everybody that I saw. Old ladies in parking lots, old ladies in grocery stores. I mean, you name it. Anyone that I saw that I thought had a need, I would go right up to them and I'd say, hey, have you ever tried CBD? You ever hear of CBD? And they would, of course, say no. And they would let me spray a couple sprays in their mouth, perfect strangers. Nowadays, I don't think that would happen. So
yeah, how about that?
Yeah, but 2013, 14, 15, it was a different time. And people would just let me, a complete stranger, spray this oil under their tongue. And I'd stand there and talk to them for a few minutes. And within a few minutes of talking to them, they would literally say right then and there, I think I feel better. My anxiety's decreased. My pain is gone. Or they would call the next day and say, I slept like a baby, like I've never slept before. And I just started getting all these responses back. And that's when I knew that this wasn't a fad, that this wasn't placebo effect, that this was a legitimate thing here to stay. So that's what propelled me into wanting to educate myself and become very educated on this subject so that I could help people even further, rather than just saying this is a magic lotion or a magic potion that it does everything. That's not a good enough reason to tell people. So I pretty much watched every YouTube video, every doctor video on CBD, on the endocannabinoid system. I went to the Cleveland School of Cannabis and got fully trained there. And my education just continues to this day. But when I found out about CBD treating kids with seizures, something clicked inside of me and inside of my spirit, where I just knew, I've always known from a small child that cannabis is the healing tree of the nations. I always just had an innate feeling that this was a medicinal plant, but I never knew how. I never understood how or why. And that was kind of the gap there. And I think that's been the gap with this plant for a long time. Mm-hmm. And so once I discovered the endocannabinoid system and I got trained up on that and I understood the CB1 receptors, the CB2 receptors and what they do and how they work, it made me a very valuable person to be able to go around and help these people with this stuff. So I guess moving on from that, I started once things started picking up, I started going around to shows and festivals around Ohio, music festivals and different weekend long events and things like that. And I would set up a booth and I would just hand out pamphlets on CBD, educational material. I would give away the majority of the CBD that I brought with me. Some people would purchase it and stuff, but that was my focus, was just bringing the gospel of hemp to the people, because people have just never heard of this. And they kind of have the stigma that hemp is marijuana. You're going to get high off of it. It's the devil's lettuce, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
And I really saw this opportunity of CBD. I thought it would usher in the awareness of the cannabis plant. I mean, who can deny, who can have something to say about a child that comes out of a seizure with this product? I mean, right. I just knew that was going to change everything with this plant. And I wanted to be one of the first people out there making that change happen. So I was doing a lot of shows, a lot of festivals. I was living in a tent for most of my summers or on a cot up at these shows and festivals all over Ohio. And that led to my first company, which was Hemp for Health, LLC, which I created back in 2013. And that company was mainly a distribution company. I didn't have my store back then. So my idea was to purchase CBD and then go and try to sell it to stores that were already in existence. And I would go in and I would educate people. I would put CBD in on consignment a lot of times. And that was kind of how I got started, getting the product to the market here in Ohio. Was a lot of these other retail stores, health food stores that would allow me to put it in there. Most of them said no because they didn't understand.
Right.
But the ones that did were very successful. And then so that led to me meeting a lot of people in parking lots, a lot of elderly people I'd be meeting at Giant Eagle or Kroger parking lot, and they would say, "Oh my gosh, this feels like a drug deal. I wish you had a store." As I'm handing bottles of oil, through their car window and stuff like that, and standing there for 30 minutes explaining how it works and all that kind of stuff. And, I did that for a good 2 years until, I heard enough people say, "I just wish you had a retail store." And I thought, well, hey, I'm a real estate agent. How hard can this be? I'll find a commercial space, I'll rent it, and I'll create a store. And so that's what I did. And I pretty much opened the first CBD education retail store that I'm aware of back in 2016. And so that's what led to the Columbus Botanical Depot that we have here today in Columbus, Ohio.
Okay.
And since then, we have just been really making our name known with all the things that we do, with the promotions that we do. We've got an education center next to our retail store where Dr. Bridget comes and teaches, and at our education resource center. So we've been doing free classes to the public for going on 3 years now.
Wow.
And it's attached right next to our retail store. So people get educated, then they go next door, and it's just kind of a one-stop shop. And
that is awesome.
It turned out into a very big blessing, I'll tell you that.
Yes, it is. And you are touching so many people. So how do people get in contact with you? Do you do mail order?
We do. We do free shipping all over the United States. So people can go on our website. You can look up columbusbotanicaldepot.com or cbdhemphealth.com is a little shorter. CBD, HEMPHEALTH, cbdhemphealth.com. Okay. We do free shipping all across the United States, and we love to make recommendations. So for people that kind of don't really know what they should be taking, that's where we really shine, because we've got 7-8 years of anecdotal evidence that tells us this product does that, this product does this product's better for that. So, we've got all that history with these products that we carry. So that's what makes us, very powerful in our recommendations to people, because it takes out a lot of the guesswork for people. They don't have to spend $500 to figure out they should have started with this one product over here. So, that's what we really love to do. So we encourage people to call us or email us or just reach out on any of our social medias and, share it with us what's going on, and we'll really make the best recommendation for you.
Wow. And what a testimonial.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that was awesome.
That
Tremendous
was really
amount of knowledge.
Tremendous. And, you just made me think about when you're really passionate about something, you do it for nothing.
Yeah.
And you definitely put a seal on that. And I always tell people that, but listening to your story, you put a seal on it because you were just giving it away.
Yeah.
Because you believed.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely believed, and I was willing to risk everything and give everything away just so one person would get relief from it. And that's been my motto ever since day one. And it still is to this day. I mean, people still come into the store and have never heard of CBD. And some people think that's annoying. I think that's wonderful. Yes. Because it gives me an opportunity to educate people from the ground up so that they get the right information, accurate information, so that they can empower themselves to take these products and help themselves with it. Education is power. It's the key to this industry.
Yes, absolutely. Wow. So quickly, what are some of the things that CBD can help people with?
So the main ones that people come into the store are anxiety, pain, sleep, autoimmune disorders, skin disorders. I mean, literally, we see everything here. We see every single reason, but I think sleep, pain, and anxiety are still probably the top 3 reasons people come in. And so it basically just depends on what they're trying to treat, leads us to what product to recommend. Oil and vapor that goes under the tongue goes in and hits the CB1 receptor in the brain, whereas capsules and gummies and things like that go down and hit the CB2 receptor in the gut, which is in the immune system. So a good way to look at it is oil does the brain, capsules do the body. So now they do cross a little bit, don't get me wrong, they do, but it's more of a direct approach if you have anxiety to do oil. It's more of a direct approach if you have an autoimmune disorder to do a capsule, because it's all about where the CBD absorbs in the body is going to determine what receptor is activated, which is going to determine what kind of relief you get. So there's a lot of science that goes into it. And, I just love it because it makes my job very easy because I understand these things. And when I recommend a product to somebody and they try it and it works for them, that's priceless.
Oh yeah. That's the result you want.
Yep, absolutely.
Wow.
I do have one question. You're also an author in the anthology?
Yeah, Dr. Bridget reached out and made me a special author, and she, thinks I have a story to tell, and being one of the first CBD stores to open, I thought, yeah, this is a great opportunity to get this message out and kind of share my story and, why I got into CBD and where we're at today with it. So wonderful opportunity. Couldn't thank her enough.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Eager to read it.
Yeah.
This has been an excellent interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. And we are looking forward to definitely following you. And we've met now, and I want to know more. So I will definitely be in touch.
I will stand here and talk about it for as long as you'll let me. You'll have to tell me to shut up. I guarantee it.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for definitely educating us and giving us your story. And we will definitely chat again.
Okay. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
You are so welcome.
Jennifer Anderson is a medical doctor. Dr. Jennifer Anderson has taken both personal and professional risk helping families around the world as a Canadian family physician who works to advocate and educate about the role of cannabis in pediatric epilepsy. It is her hope that her work will make a permanent impact on the world of pediatric cannabis through the documentary Anything Can Happen, which is about her life and work and is scheduled to debut spring of 2022 through Barehand Films, an independent film company. Today, she adds her voice to the soon-to-be released anthology, Courage in Cannabis. Welcome, Dr. Anderson.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yes, welcome. So, how did you end up on the road that you're on now? What inspired you?
Well, I mean, if you told me 10 years ago I'd be giving cannabis to kids, I would have told you that you're crazy. But, I was forced into a crisis in 2016 with my own son, who was seizing nonstop despite traditional medical therapy. And being a physician, I had to come head to head with my colleagues over this topic. And without much support at all, I did try CBD with my son over a weekend, and it changed his life forever. From that moment, I advocated to my colleagues to continue it, and I was hit with a lot of pushback. It was almost impossible for me as a physician to have this for my child. And as the year went on, there were other families looking that had failed everything, looking to at least try CBD with their kids. And I couldn't bear to watch them when I had such a struggle. So in 2017, I started seeing kids I'm a family physician, and in Canada, we're able to sort of authorized cannabis medically since the early 2000s. And so I put my neck out and risked everything to do this for these kids, and with amazing results. And I just sort of did what I thought I should. And over the years, gained trust of my colleagues, built models of care that were more collaborative and team approached. And now today I work in collaboration with many of my colleagues around me to help these kids at least try cannabis to see if it will make a difference in their lives. And so, yes, there is a documentary that we started before COVID that will be coming out finally in the new year. It's just a look at my my story, as well as 3 of my patients, 2 with epilepsy, 1 is my son, and then 2 with autism, and their journeys and how the whole practice impacted their lives.
I was going to, that was my question. Have there been any applications of cannabis for children with autism? And is there a particular part of autism that is most, where it's most effective, or does it seem to work across the board?
So there's many overlaps in research with epilepsy and autism. I don't think that anyone knows specifically why some kids with autism do respond and some don't. I'm suspecting that as we research more, we'll find some metabolic involvement and differences between the kids. And so my approach with autism as well as epilepsy has been to treat them all and see which it works for and which it doesn't. And so the approaches for both epilepsy and autism are very different. And kids, respond variably actually in both fields. And then there are lots of other fields where we are exploring cannabis with kids as well, in palliative care, in oncology, in mental health, and a lot of things that traditional medicine has failed to really make a difference.
Yes. And
okay, go ahead.
One of the things, I know you talked about the pushback from your colleagues at first. Now that they have seen the results, first, let me just backtrack a little bit. When you go to school to become a doctor, they don't teach you about the earthly things that can make a difference.
No.
So they teach you about the pharmaceutical world. So I think that kind of makes it difficult for a lot of them to switch over, because they've sort of been brainwashed, so to speak, into this is what you do for this, then you're tested on it, then there's a thesis and some more stuff all surrounding Western medicine.
Absolutely. I actually grew up very different than my colleagues. I actually grew up with a single mom on welfare, and she was very into a lot of alternative things. So I grew up with a very different way of thinking. And I did my undergrad in physiology and microbiology, and then I went into med school. And I did find that a lot of the things that I used in practice came from my real life experiences. And when I was faced with this crisis, I gained strength and knowledge from a lot of the accessory things that I'd experienced in life, which really helped me, navigate it, and really gave me the strength to just do what I thought was right.
Yes. And I'm pretty holistic myself in my home. And, like I keep the aloe plant. It does wonders for the inside and the outside. Like my dog, I would have, what's it called? Oh God, I can't even think of it. But for like stomach issues, aloe vera and water. Burns, we all know about the burns, for aloe. So I look around the house for things that are inexpensive, but they work. And there's no side effects. I read everything now with the side effects, everything. because the side effects can be worse than whatever the problem you're trying to cure.
I agree. I think there's going to be a revolution in medicine, and I feel like with what's happened with COVID, people are pushing for answers. People are pushing for alternative ways of doing things. And they're really questioning a lot of things, and that's forcing the medical community to just come head to head with it, and that's really what I experienced with cannabis. And I'm seeing that a lot in this field right now, which is really opening the door to really educate and advocate, which is what I've kind of focused on doing now. And specifically with kids, even though I do work with adults, putting faces to who we're talking about. So a lot of times I will, put faces of me and my son, because I find that when people see a face that's not a child's face that's dependent on cannabis, they listen. Because kids don't lie about having seizures and then not having seizures.
Right.
Yeah. So I think we really have to see things differently.
Yeah, they have a simple honesty.
Yes.
They just put it out there and you can take it or leave it.
Exactly.
This is a very informative interview. And I agree with you, the fact that you and your son make a great campaign for cannabis for children. And I'm wondering, and you may not be able to answer this, have there been any studies done within prisons with cannabis, especially with difficult populations? Do you know?
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but that's probably too why, because I haven't looked for that, but I'm sure that there are some. I know that there are many studies going on with PTSD and a lot of things that the prison population does deal with. So it wouldn't surprise me.
Okay.
Now, let me ask you quickly, your child is autistic?
My child has epilepsy.
Okay, epilepsy. Yeah. Okay, so let me get this reframed right. It's like I know what I want to say. I don't really make sure I frame it correctly. Okay, on the Western medicine, okay, the results were seizures frequently.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, on the CBD, what are the results now?
So prior to starting CBD, my son over the 6 months prior was probably in hospital 80-90% of the time. He has a lot of different types of seizures. So I would say at the very end there, he's probably seizing multiple times an hour. Over the course of a weekend, he stopped seizing at night, which he would go to sleep and seize all night. And then, he'd still have seizures in the day. And over the course of the first 6 months, his seizures probably dropped by 50%. And then year to year, probably 50% each year, until now. We haven't been in hospital for 3 years.
Wow.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Really
and so,
nice.
I mean, when you talk about costs to the system, which is really what the government wants to know, it's a huge cost saving. When my son was in hospital all the time, in and out of ER, ambulances, ICU, huge cost savings.
Wow.
And quality of life. We are able to have a family life. I had to quit my job. I wasn't able to pretty much do anything at the end there. And then within 2 to 3 weeks of starting CBD, I was able to work again. Not that I really wanted to. I had to take my whole life. It turned upside down, and I had to recreate my career, which now involves working full-time eMERGE and hospital. And then I do a pediatric clinic once or twice a week, helping other doctors help kids.
Wow.
Awesome.
That is so awesome.
So it has turned what was almost a tragedy has turned into a blessing, not only for you and your son, your family, but also for so many people. Look at those parents who have been living in terror every time their child has had a seizure. And now there's some real hope that it may at least lessen and maybe eventually stop for good periods of time.
Yes.
There
That's
are
fabulous.
kids who go seizure free. And I have to say that being a physician that has a child that's been through this, that is sometimes the most therapeutic thing that I share with my patients. Just the knowledge that I know what they're going through and that I'm willing to help.
So if people, parents out there that have similar situation as you, how can they reach out to you to get more information?
I do have a website. It's Dr. Jennifer Anderson, cannabismd.com that people can message me through. I am only licensed in Manitoba where I live, so I can't sort of help other people obtain cannabis, but I can help maybe direct them to a physician near them that might be able to help them. And I am always available to help physicians around the world navigate cannabis and try to help them help kids.
Oh, wow.
Jennifer, could you give us that website one more time, please?
Yeah, it's Dr. Jennifer Anderson, cannabismd.com.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Make sure you email that to us so that way we can definitely have that. Wow. Jennifer, what a blessing, what a testimony, all of that. We are looking forward to definitely continuing to follow your journey and be able to see how many people that lives you've touched with your mission on helping children. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you so much.
Franny Tacey is called a trailblazer by Fox and a pioneer in the hemp by NBC. She is the visionary of Franny's Pharmacy, a vertically integrated CBD business with Farmer Network that manufactures over 80 proprietary CBD products, engineers distribution, wholesale and e-commerce operations, and franchising as a multi-state operator of dispensaries in 5 states. Franny is famously referred to as the Force and the hippie in high heels, and has been featured by every major media organization, including ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox, and PBS. Today, she is here to share her experience as a contributing author to the anthology Courage in Cannabis. Welcome, Franny.
What a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. Wow. So beginnings. How did you end up on the road that you're on now with cannabis?
Well, I mean, that's a great story, and I really feel like it's been a lifetime. I grew up in Tennessee, and my dad was a cattle farmer, and they had cannabis that grew wild there. They called it ditchweed. So I grew up hearing stories of ditchweed. And then in college, I was in forestry school out west and had to write a paper and found The Emperor Wears No Clothes. Well, wow, did that change my whole philosophy about cannabis. And at that time, I mean, it was a very different thing. I was a cannabis consumer, made straight A's until they told me they were going to drug test me. I couldn't, and almost failed out of school. But so I've been a great supporter of cannabis, went through school, was in pharmaceuticals. There's the story of pharma to farm. I always wanted my farm. That was my dream. And I had bought a farm. We'd been operating the farm for about 5 years. I was teaching business of farming classes and working in pharmaceuticals. And I kept saying, you know, we have got to put health in healthcare. We've got to put FARM, farm, in pharmacy. There's something missing. And then all of a sudden, I was at a conference and saw some little sign at a little bitty table that said, "Let farmers grow hemp." And I went and talked to him, and it was about a petition. And that was in 2015 after the Farm Bill had passed. So got involved, still working in pharmaceuticals to help get legalization passed in North Carolina. We were the 7th state to come online to grow hemp. And of course, after 5 times of it not passing, we get a call, you know, one morning, they're like 11:59, it passed. Politics played in our favor. And I had to leap, then look, because then it was time to put, my money where my mouth was and walk my talk. And I planted hemp. It was a really huge, crazy thing to do that. We had to have $200,000, 100,000 signatures, develop an entire plan to do this. And lo and behold, I put a seed in the ground, grew a crop. Our first crop, was the first woman to do a TED Talk, first person to do a TED Talk on hemp. And it wasn't until after harvest, 8 months later, I get an award from the Department of Agriculture saying I was the first female farmer in North Carolina to plant hemp.
Wow.
So the rest is like, you just said it. We now have manufacturing, distribution. We're in 5 states. So, we don't have to take the path I did now. There's a lot more people like you and the people on this, in this team that have paved the way to make it easier. But
Wow.
That's how it goes.
What a story, man. The first female to grow hemp
in North Carolina.
Yes.
Yes, and the 11th in the country, apparently, that was not involved in university research. So that's how it really started. The path started throughout the country, is that they put it in universities to research. And after that, states started coming online to develop their plans.
Mm-hmm.
So North Carolina has this law that allows you to grow hemp for medical purposes, correct? What are the other 6 states, or what are some of the other states that are allowed?
Everything, everything has changed now. Everything is so different. That was 4 years ago, but in the cannabis space, that might as well have been another lifetime ago, because it was still illegal when I did it. So if you ever get really curious, and the first crop I grew was actually for food and fiber. I'm an advocate for the industry. We are very involved in hemp foods that don't even have necessarily CBD and THC in them. They are just a hemp food. What a superpower food. And an advocate for hemp, and obviously for women and what we do in business. And it's really been amazing to see what has happened and to support that. So if somebody ever looks for Franny, spelled with a Y, why? Because I love y'all and I love him. But Franny, F-R-A-N-N-Y on TED, it really talks about all the uses for this crop and the versatility of it. Mm-hmm. And what's so inspiring about Courage in Cannabis and this anthology that Dr. Bridget has put together is it's another example of how women see the big picture and start working backwards in networking and collaborating. We work backwards to put all these pieces together. When I say, there's a lot of, it's a white man dominated industry. And I said, they get caught up with hemp fever. And some of the symptoms of that are inflated ego. We gonna get rich quick scheme. Yes. And I am the man. I am the person behind this that's moving it. That is not it. That's why 95% of businesses have been in and out. They come, in and out. It takes, I grew this like the plant with roots. We have stayed small to do everything the right. We were the first people in North Carolina and some in the country, because we were the first state in the country to trace. So we have our logo with Franny's Pharmacy, Seed to Shelf, Hemp and Health, where we trace that back to the crop, back to where that plant grows, and we tested it. But to do that, I had to find other women. We had to start a Women in Hemp nonprofit to fund research, because you couldn't get grants. You can't get loans. 5 women researchers did that right here out of North Carolina. We're just in here. We're all in it 5 years later. It's just super inspiring. And I love what I love what y'all are doing. It's a real honor to be here and be collaborating with you and these other, just all of us that continue to come together and bridge the gaps to move the industry forward in a positive way.
Yes. And oh my God, you are such a ball of fire. I just love your energy.
That's why I said the force, but I mean, I can't help it. You got to have a lot of energy to do this.
You have to have a lot of energy to do everything these days that you are committed to. And I'm just speechless about what I'm hearing from you and what you've done. And you are definitely a true warrior.
Well, I want to tell you what you did that inspired me when this opportunity came about. I've been in the media like all over the place. And I was like, well, who is this Ida? I need to check her out. And as I went through and started learning about you and what you did, there's some very good quotes out there. You're a true leader in the heart of things. And you're like, it's not about people, jobs, finance, anything. It's about the mission and it's about the heart, because that's really the only way to get through this is and stay in it, because this is really big, not just for us individually, but our invisible impact on the country, our communities, what we're doing by introducing people to plant medicine. This is a plant. And I love to tell everybody, it's a female plant, the medicinal part. That's how we heal ourselves and everything, So thank you for being, a really great inspiration for me and for others, getting back to what it's really about.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And how do people get in touch with you if they want to learn more about what you're doing? Now, once you do your craft, let me just go back a little bit. How do you distribute? What is your distribution method?
So we're right here in Asheville, North Carolina. It's in the sweet, amazing, liberal mountain town of Western North Carolina. And we started by opening our first couple of dispensaries. Then some people were interested. So I had spent almost 15 years on a road warrior in sales, in pharmaceuticals, ultimate geek. Okay. I'm just a science nerd. I love that stuff. And I spent all my rotations every year in manufacturing. So I was so excited to take this crop that I was growing on the farm and put it into manufacturing and do the research and development. I love R&D. So we got our manufacturing plant and we started creating our own products. And it took about 2 years from the time I planted the crops to get to that point. That's what it does. And then other people became interested. We opened more dispensaries, so we had to open distribution. So we also have distribution. So for a lot of people, there's a lot of different models. What my whole objective is to help other people, but there's only one of me. So by setting up a system, that's how we help people. So distribution allowed us the opportunity to help other businesses get started with a quality product that was tested, that came from the field, and that they could wholesale and integrate a lot of different ways into their own model. So we have distribution based out of Asheville. And now, like I said, we're in 5 states and we have franchising opportunities. And let me just say, we have so much diversity within our company, but I do not have an African-American female franchise owner right now. And I am super excited when I will. So really everything is frannyspharmacy.com is the bridge to how do you get a wholesale account and learn about how do you order. You can order our products on e-com and try them. Or how do you get involved in wholesale? How do you get involved in a franchise opportunity? It's all, the education that's behind it. It all starts there. But there's some really great stuff because like you and I and all these women that are talking together, my own personal Instagram, Facebook, Franny Tacey, is a lot, I do yoga every day and meditate. I can't do this if I don't drop in and connect to the higher purpose.
Right.
The goddess plant she can talk to you in meditation. And so, this is how we help. So Franny Tacey, Franny's Farm, are a beautiful, sweet farm right here. You want to talk about transparency? You can come see me. Well, you can come see my farm. There's a hashtag, where's Franny? Because I'm hard to nail down. But you can come and stay on our farm and see our farm, learn a little bit about it. We have goats. We did goat yoga. Before hemp, there was goat yoga. And there were music festivals. It's really authentic. And we have herbs. We grow a lot of the herbs and medicinals for our products on the farm. We do discovery days twice a month for people that are interested in business opportunities to come into our manufacturing and distribution. Open book, open, because it's just, that's the only way to be.
Yes.
So Franny Tacey, Franny's Farm, Franny's Pharmacy. Find us. We're everywhere. And we were talking about one of the things that you do, and this podcast is very involved in YouTube. And we've got YouTube stations. People will find us through you, and they can find you through us.
Yes.
This is how we all rise.
That is so true, Franny. Wow.
Oh, wow.
We are so blessed to have met you
Mhm.
and to have heard your story. And we know what's on now because God has brought us together in this space. And it is not by mistake. It is on purpose. So we are definitely looking forward to more and more of Franny.
Yes, indeed.
So
Thank you very much.
Yes. So again, how do people connect with you?
Well, if you're a social media person, go to Franny's Pharmacy, hashtag the @ Franny's Pharmacy, and Franny's with a Y, and Pharmacy, FARM, putting the farm back in pharmacy.
All right.
That's Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We even have Spotify music station because we pump that into our dispensaries. Look for us on YouTube. And by all means, check out the TED Talk. It's a real dive into what hemp can be used for. It's the only plant that can feed, clothe, shelter, and provide medicine for us. It's so much bigger than what we know right now. So look for me anywhere, reach out. By all means, I would love for you to try our products. And I'm here for you.
All righty now. But thank you so much, my dear. We appreciate you.
Yes.
Well, thank you.
Our next guest is Edlania Etherly Muhammad. Edlania is the owner of Marlon's Miracles LLC, a health and wellness company whose primary focus is providing high-quality CBD products, resources, coaching, and education. Edlania holds degrees in business management, accounting, and ASL interpretation, and she is currently pursuing her Master of Science degree in interpretation. Today, she is here to share her experience as a contributing author to Courage in Cannabis. Welcome, Lania.
Hello, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome, Edlania. So, tell us how you got on this road. What inspired you?
As far as the book or my journey into cannabis?
Your journey into cannabis.
Okay. Well, just a little bit about it. I was one of those people who grew up and never used marijuana and didn't really hang around a lot of people that did. If I had friends that did, pretty much, I wasn't interested. They were good with that. And I was actually taking a liturgical dance class several years ago and was talking with someone about our controversial career choices, mine being in, sexual health and enhancement, and hers being in having a dispensary. So here I am in church liturgical dance class and Bible code Christian, telling me she has a dispensary. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like, you can do that? I didn't know. And so she started sharing her story with me, how it helped her with her MS. And then how she actually, because she actually was from Michigan, but she went to California to get her card out there. And then she actually went to Amsterdam to study about it. And then came back to Michigan to help it get passed on the medicinal level. And now we're also a recreational use state as well. And so she was talking to me about my migraines and how it may be able to help me with my migraines. And so I had my medical records sent to one of her doctors, and they looked over everything, went in for my evaluation, and got my card, and walked into dispensary and tried marijuana for the first time. And that was an interesting experience for me because neither myself, my husband, none of us had ever used marijuana before. It was just one, everybody has their thing, that just wasn't our thing. And then after that, I actually, at the time, I didn't have health insurance. My husband and I are entrepreneurs. So this was a great, inexpensive way for me to get relief and manage my migraine pain without paying for the expensive medication that I was using. Fast forward a few years, and I started to learn about CBD. And my first experience with CBD wasn't very positive at all. It didn't work. I just didn't get it. And I didn't understand that all CBD wasn't the same and that it affects everybody differently. And as I got more educated and started really looking into more quality products, I actually started experiencing relief with CBD. And I loved it because it allowed me an opportunity to be able to manage my migraines and still function. Because when I would use marijuana, especially if I'm in pain, that was it. Between, being tired from the pain and then, using the cannabis. I mean, I slept really well, but it was really hard for me to be as productive as I wanted to be. And with the CBD, I was able to be productive. And yeah.
Wow, what a story. And you never hear the people that never touched it. Usually people back in college and things like that. But you was like, no, not me. And now here we are.
Yeah, like I tell people, I was good and grown. Before I actually started using it. And now, I'm on this big crusade to let people know about CBD. I actually opened up a store. So we have a CBD store named after my mom, who's a nurse. And my mother really believed in the balance between Eastern and Western medicine. And when I started this journey, she reminded me of the Bible verse that says the leaves of the trees are for healing the nations. So everything that we need to heal us, to help maintain us, it grows somewhere on this earth. This is called Mother Earth for a reason. God gave us everything we needed right here. And just because people have had this negative propaganda about it, which had nothing to do with community welfare. It had to do with money and politics and textiles and pharmaceutical, had nothing to do with what was really good for the welfare of people in general. We have a lot of misinformation out there as a result.
Yeah, you're so right.
I'm amazed about how the major component about what everyone talks about is education. For the reason there has been so much miseducation.
Oh my gosh, yes. I feel, when I started doing research, I actually felt kind of like lied to. Like, wait a minute, my whole life, this has been like the gateway drug, and only lazy people do this. And if you start using it, it's going to kill off your brain cells and you're never going to mature past where you are. I'm working on a master's degree. So I think I'm good, like, I'm working on a master's degree. I'm running a business. I help my husband with his business. I tutor, I teach. I think all my brain cells are still there. So
yeah. So liar, liar, liar.
Yes.
Yes.
Wow.
I think that's really interesting. Again, like Ida said, for someone who's had never touched it, it was totally unacceptable, socially, spiritually, all the rest of those things. And then to discover that it is a miracle. That's what your store is called, Marlon's Miracle.
Yep,
It is
Marlon's
literally a
Miracle.
miracle, and is being a miracle in the lives of so many people. Because
Yes.
we've all been lied to. Even
Yes.
those who had tried it in their college years or whenever, they backed away from it as they got older because, you know, it was just not, they didn't dare be caught
Oh
with
my gosh, no.
marijuana. You know, they didn't dare admit to anybody, you know, they didn't want to be put in that position. So they abandoned it completely. And yet those years, the 60s and 70s, those were the big experiential years when marijuana became so popular. Now, if the rest of the world, the scientific world, had grabbed hold, then think of how many people would not have suffered. And in some cases, how many people would not have died.
Yes, absolutely. You know, when you were talking about how a lot of people, you know, they use it in college and they kind of abandon it, and the stigma around it. I remember when I had the conversation with my children about it, because I don't smoke. I have asthma, so I can't smoke. So I do edibles. And well, I wanted to do my own edibles. And if you know about anything about cannabis, you know it has very unique smells. And when you're cooking it in your house, I mean, you can't tell your children it's fried chicken because it just doesn't smell like it, you know. And so I had to have that conversation with our children. And you know, that was a difficult conversation, a very uncomfortable conversation. I mean, understand, I can talk to my children about sex, like that's my thing. We talked about sex with them growing up, like at breakfast and dinner. It was just a part of normal conversation that we had, because I really wanted them to feel comfortable with themselves and their bodies and all of this. And so I can have those kind of conversations with my children, but I couldn't have this one. This one was so hard. It was so difficult to sit down and say, yes, I know mom and dad said, you know, not to do this. And I still don't want you to do it. Like, let's just be clear. However, you need to understand what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, and what's going on behind it. So I had to have that conversation with them. And that was tough. That was tough. And scary.
You know, that's really amazing, because that's something I haven't thought about in all the conversations that we've had so far, is that everyone who's involved with this, who has children, has to have a conversation at some point.
Yes.
Because no matter what, this particular plant has a bad rap, okay?
Right.
And if you bring it into your life, you're kind of like, you know, you get a bad rap too. So all of these people that we've been talking to, yes, they've had to have this conversation. You know, like you said, sex used to be the conversation.
Right.
Now it's a plant that is the conversation. So it's just, humans, we're just amazing. We're amazing. Well, we just don't get it. We don't get it until it comes along and beats us over the head. And right now, someone was just saying about, you know, her child, an epilepsy, and this other young man, and losing his family members, close family members.
Yes.
Then finding out that, oh my gosh, this plant might have helped them.
Yes.
You know,
Or it is helping them.
and it is, you know, or it is helping them. So it's like, it just takes us so long to get it. And I don't mean to be rude, and I hope anyone who is Native American understands me when I say this. They gave this to us, over 200 years ago.
Yes.
And we maligned them, saying that they were smoking wacky tobacco. And that's not what they were doing.
No.
And it's more acceptable for people to smoke nicotine than it is for them, and understand, like the cigarettes that people are smoking today. I always tell people this is not your grandmother's cigarettes. No. It's been, you know, all these things that have been added to it. But we have an issue if somebody wants to take a plant that's grown out of the earth and not even smoke it, just use it in other ways.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it's like, oh my gosh, like, okay, so, we can't do that, but we can have this beer.
Right.
We got these cigarettes over here.
Well, this liquor.
Not that plant, not that green thing that grows up out of the ground.
Yeah.
That you don't have to alter, and it's beneficial to you.
Yeah.
That is the world that we live in, and it's very upside down and backwards.
It really is.
It
Really is.
It really is. And even with being comfortable to tell people, and like even in church and let people know, hey, this is what I'm doing. I still, every time I come to somebody, I have to educate them on the benefits of cannabis. And when I say cannabis, I mean all of cannabis. I mean hemp, marijuana, it's pretty much the same thing. The government makes a difference based on the amount of THC in there, but the THC is in there for a reason.
Yeah.
And
it comes with the plant.
It does. And I get a lot of calls at my store and people will say, oh, do you have any CBD products that have 0 THC in them? I say, nope. All my products are full spectrum, because full spectrum gives you the entire plant profile. It is more effective for you. You can use less of it. I said there's trace amounts in there because God put it in there as an ingredient for a reason. It's like when somebody substitutes butter for margarine, you can taste it. It doesn't taste the same.
Amen.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
Yes.
You are so right. You are so right.
Yes.
And I want the most bang for my buck. I want what I use to last the longest. I want to be able to use the least amount so I have it longer. I don't want to have to use up twice the amount because I have an issue or somebody else's ignorance is now affecting how I can take care of myself and my health.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
We go again. Education versus ignorance.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You have to educate. You really do.
Mm-hmm.
You have to.
Absolutely.
Because of the stigma, number one, the government saying it's bad, people going to jail, all kinds of negativity that they've surrounded around it to find out that the body actually needs it.
Yes.
We share DNA with the cannabis plant.
Yeah.
Our bodies have the receptors to be able to take it in and put it where it needs to go.
Right.
But there has to be a reason. There has to be a reason.
Well, we know the reason.
God put
God made it for
marijuana on this earth because he put inside of us the ability to receive it and use it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
If it was
so common sense.
We weren't supposed to use that way, then people wouldn't have so many benefits from it. It just wouldn't be. If somebody told me that if cannabis was discovered today, people would be like, oh my gosh, there's this miracle herb and you can do this with it and you can rub it here and it works and you can take it this way and it works. Like they said, it would be the most amazing discovery if it was discovered today.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
But it's an amazing plan. God knew what he was doing when he set all of this up.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He knew what he was doing.
Yes, he did.
I always think that about the Garden of Eden, and he says that, he put everything there.
Mm-hmm.
He planted the Garden of Eden, and then he took Adam and put him there. Now, he's not going to put Adam in some place where there's nothing good for him. So everything that was good for him was in that garden.
Exactly.
And the Bible was to make sure it got to the rest of the earth. That was his job.
And the Bible says that. It says everything works for the good for those who love the Lord. So he created, and everything that God created, it says, and God created that and he saw it was good.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Everything is here for a reason. Just because within our ignorance, we misalign what that reason is, or because of money, we decide that we want to control certain things, that doesn't make what God created any less valuable or any less good.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wow.
It's not him, it's us.
Right.
We're the problem.
It's always us. You already know.
It's not God.
Always us.
We're the problem.
I always say, if it wasn't for other people, I'd be all right.
I like that one. I'm gonna use that. I'm gonna use that.
Edlania, how do people connect with you and learn more about what you're doing?
So they can also always visit our website, which is www.marlinsmiracles, and Marlin is spelled Marlan. So it's Marlins, obviously with an S. So marlinsmiracles.com. They can email me at care@marlinsmiracles.com. And I guess they can call me 888-663-0383.
Wow.
I think that's the right number. Wait a minute, that's a shame, right? Shouldn't I know my number by heart?
That's okay, my dear.
I should know it. I should know it by heart. And it's so funny because I'm sorry, it's 888-660-0383. Sorry about that. I should know it by heart. I absolutely should, but I always have my calls forwarded to my cell phone anyway. So just to make it easier, so people can reach me. So I'll give it one more time. 888-660-0383.
All righty. Well, it has been a blast.
Yes, it has.
Enjoyed it. Thank you so much, Ida. Thank you so much, Ruth, for having me. I really appreciate it. And I love what you guys are doing on your platform and just educating people. And I just think it's wonderful what you all are doing. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of it.
Oh,
Thank you for saying
very much.
yes, my dear.
Rebecca Eve Finch is a wife, mother of 6, and a business owner who lives in Traverse City, Michigan. She has served in the medical community for over a decade and has as her purpose to live out God's purpose for her life. With a diagnosis of NF, she and her family have come to appreciate life and the time they have with one another. Faith, support, medical, and cannabis have all contributed to the extended time they have together. Now she brings her story to the anthology, Courage in Cannabis. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hello.
Yes, welcome, my dear. So tell us about your journey to.
Right. Okay. Well, really, our journey through, through getting to know cannabis is just through our family's health and diagnosis of NF. It's similar to cancer, but not. 3 out of our 6 children are diagnosed with it. So we are just beyond thankful that there is cannabis out there that we can use to treat.
Okay. Could you tell us what NF is? What is the medical term?
NF is neurofibromatosis. It's tumors up and down the spine or in the brain.
And what is the effect? What is the effect? What are your children going through?
Right. Okay. So the effect generally, it could be minor. It could be anywhere from just getting monitored, having MRIs once a year, to major. These tumors can compress against the spinal cord, the main arteries of the neck, in the brain, such as my son Noah.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So I've got a lot of questions. I'm just trying to figure out how to formulate it. Okay. So what, in terms of the disease, are the children able to be functional, or what does a day look like?
Yes, the children are very functional. Nobody would know they were diagnosed with this unless they knew their medical background, medical history. Because of that diagnosis, they are homeschooled on up till a certain age, just to monitor things a little bit more closely.
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is they see a specialist. They see a neuro specialist, and they go get their eyes checked also, and whatever else is needed at that time.
Oh, okay.
So how did you discover CBD and
We
make the decision to use it with your children?
Right. we discovered it from a friend of ours, as she knew that the doctor wanted us to do chemo, and she said, "Why don't you try this avenue first?" So we called our friends, excuse me. We called our friends with their diagnosis. Excuse me. I have children in the background.
Don't worry about it.
All
We
right.
human. Let them be kids. We fine.
So we had to do either chemo or cannabis. And for me, as a mother, I did not want to do chemo. So we chose the cannabis. And we called the phone number that my friend had referred us to. And they're a wonderful family. And he got us started on the treatments.
So, next question. In using the CBD, the cannabis, when did you begin to notice a difference in your children? And did it affect each one of them differently?
Okay, so honestly, I only use it for my Noah right now. He's 11 because he had the brain tumor. And yes, we've seen a big difference when he started using it, as well as now we just see the medical side of it also. He seems more artistic, focused, and at times a little sleepy, but his body was healing. So
Good.
that was good. That's what needed to happen at that time.
So when they did, I guess, MRIs, are they noticing that the tumors are getting smaller or?
Yes, absolutely. The tumors are basically getting to the point where the doctor had stated we don't need a chemo or radiation. We don't need their treatments anymore.
Wow,
Wonderful.
that is awesome. That is definitely a miracle.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we're very happy.
So with the CBD, is there a special, because I know they come in different strands and things like that from what I'm hearing from you guys. Is there a special strand that is working for your son? That you
We've honestly used a few different ones, trying to see what works better than others. Ours is CBD and THC tincture mixed together, because just the CBD won't do it, but the THC is what helps shrink those tumors.
Ah,
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's very important to hear, because many people will say they promote their product on not having THC. But it's
Right.
the THC that is actually the working component. So there
Absolutely.
needs to be a full spectrum of the product, of the plant.
Yes.
I have a question for you. As I introduced you, I noticed I was saying that you have served in the medical community for decades.
Mhm.
May I ask in what capacity?
Right. I am self-employed. I own my own home health care business, and I've been doing that. I love it.
Okay, very good. So the next question, of course, is as you do this work, do
Mhm.
you often see people who could benefit from cannabis? And are you free to be able to talk to them about it since it is your own business?
Right. Yes, actually, we have been able to help a few different scenarios of people. We were able to talk to their families and discuss the benefits of the oil, and it's been actually a huge blessing to see them be able to use it and accept it, and it helps tremendously towards the end of life.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, wow. We've heard so many different testimonies with CBD, and all different walks of life of people. who have decided to make the change and see the results of it. So, like with your, I think you said your other son has also the same disease, MS.
Right.
Yes. So, what are you doing with him right now?
Right now, we are monitoring. I have two other sons actually that have it, my 13-year-old and my 6-year-old, and they get yearly MRIs. And if we catch anything that needs to be addressed, then we will start them on the CBD also.
Oh, okay.
I think it's amazing that you can have a disease, I'll say a dis-ease in the body rather than a disease, a dis-ease in the body. And again, this plant, you can know that it's there, and yet you can monitor this dis-ease in the body. And when it is appropriate, you can use this plant to mitigate the situation, reduce the situation. As opposed, I believe that pharmaceuticals have their place in a dire emergency. But the difference is the plant can be used as needed. Pharmaceuticals are poured into our bodies, and we don't really know to what degree they're needed. We just we just barrage our bodies with substances that are foreign because they were made in a lab, as opposed to a plant, and this keeps coming up, a plant that our body actually has receptors for. It actually says, I'm here and I'm open to receiving. Please send in the cannabis. You know, this has been such a learning experience for me. It's been a huge learning experience.
Yes.
You know, and when people like yourself, Rebecca, come and you share your stories, and this is a very personal story. These are your children.
Right.
You know, yeah, this is a very personal story. It's mind-blowing.
It is. It really is.
So many people who have children who are suffering, and they don't know there's another way. They don't know there's another way that their children can regain their health and their life. You know, not saying perfect life, but better than being filled with more things that are destroying their bodies.
For sure.
It doesn't, almost you can say it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
It does not make sense. You know,
it really doesn't.
That you use this on your son and his tumor is shrinking. Come on now. I'm thinking not only this, but I'm thinking about women who have fibroid tumors who end up getting hysterectomies. I wonder how this would work for them.
Right.
You know, especially young women who haven't had their children yet, you know?
Absolutely.
Wow.
It could just, it's the difference between changing someone's life for the better or ending their life emotionally and in so many other ways. And that's all it takes is a plant.
That's right. Yes.
So let me ask you a question. The doctor, does most doctor know what you're doing?
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
And how are they feeling about it?
Initially, she told me she wouldn't even do these treatments for her grandchildren. Over time, over a period of seeing Noah's results, she said, I wish we can do this for more children.
Wow.
One doctor at a time.
Yeah.
Right. That's it.
That is amazing. That is an amazing story. And everybody we've talked to has the same outcome. better. It's much better.
Yes.
So do you advocate now for CBD for children?
We haven't yet, but we have been wanting to for a long time, actually.
Yes. So, I mean, you are definitely have a testimonial. You have a real amazing story.
Mhm.
I
That
mean,
needs to be heard. Yeah.
yes. Yes. And just so our audience is clear about the disease, what does this disease affect that Noah has?
Okay, so this disease, neurofibromatosis, well, let me tell you another thing. My husband, he is diagnosed with it. That's how we discovered the diagnosis when he was
Ah,
with our children. And from there, they have gotten their routine visits. So it can affect, you can become, well, for instance, one of his main tumors was compressing against his main spinal cord and his main artery, and he would not be living anymore. It really affects your mental state, your memory. It can, depending on where the tumors are, physically, if the tumors are in the wrong area, it can affect just your walking in general. There's just so much it can affect depending on where the tumors are. And this is not just one or two, this is hundreds of them.
oh, okay.
Okay.
Wow. Okay. So now I have a good understanding of the disease.
Mhm.
Wow. Wow. And the CBD is shrinking those, actually curing it.
Right. Yes, absolutely.
It's just utterly amazing. That's utterly
Yes, it
amazing.
is.
Because the spinal cord is one of the things that, our bodies pretty much can't operate without the spinal cord.
Right.
And I'm just thinking about all the applications. I mean, I'm just thinking about the ways in which CBD can be used. And you're talking about the spinal cord, your central nervous system, everything that's affected. What else can CBD be used for to take care of those things involving the spine, that involve the central nervous system, that can really be debilitating?
Right.
And rather than surgery, I've seen people have back surgery and it's never good.
It's never worked.
outcome is
I
never
don't know anybody that back surgery worked for.
Nobody. So,
Right.
again, it's one of those things as we listen to these stories and we listen to yours, and yours is very personal. These are your children and your husband as well.
Yeah.
So it's the entire family is involved. So many people need to hear this because they're suffering in silence and they're listening to their doctors. Their doctors mean well, but they don't know that there's another way. There's just another way. And your stories, thank you for coming
Yes.
and being on our platform and sharing this so honestly and so simply and so gracefully, because people need to hear this.
Yes.
You need to know that there's hope, that there is hope.
Absolutely. And if people want to reach out to you to talk to you about your story, how do they do so?
Well, they can connect with me through Facebook, Rebecca Finch, or my email. It's just a simple one, rebecca.countrypleasures@gmail.com.
Okay. All righty. Well, we truly enjoyed you, and we're looking forward to definitely following you and keeping up to date as to what's happening with your children and how CBD is continuing to make a difference in your life as well as theirs.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, wow, wow. You are so amazing, all of you. The stories, the healing, the first. Oh my God, this is amazing. I am just so glad that Bridget put this book together and asked us to interview you guys, because we would have never known what we know today. And your passion about, making sure that people know. And as Ruth was stating earlier, everything is education. Every one of you spoke about education. So our audience out there need to understand, educate yourself. Connect with some of these people that you've seen here today and learn more, because what I'm hearing is, number one, we've been told a lie. Number two, this plant can help you at every different level and every different form. So who doesn't want to be helped?
No one wants to be sick.
Right.
Not if there's another way.
Yeah, I don't want to take a pill and then have to take another pill to fix the other pill, and then another pill to fix that pill.
They say take a pill for the side effects, for the side effects.
And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's said that once you get past 5 pills, they don't know what's causing what. They don't know what's affecting what. They
Right.
can't tell what it's doing in the body. So
Right.
I'd rather take a plant, because I kind of know how plants work. Sort of like eating collard greens. you know what it's going to do. You know the route it's going to take, and the body's just made to draw out of food what it needs. So rather than look at cannabis as some strange, horrible thing, it's really food. It's another form of food.
Yes.
And food is supposed to be our medicine.
The ultimate superfood.
Thinking that cannabis kind of like fills the bill. I just love talking and hearing each one of you. I have been so lifted up, educated. I've had some laughs. I've got to know a little bit about each one of you, and each one of you just know the value that you bring to the table.
Yes, huge.
Understand the incredible value that you have brought to the table tonight, and that our listening audience gets to hear, and we hope many more people get clued in and listen and hear your names and your voices more, and visit you and send their children to you and come to Columbus and go to the farm and call, find out how your kids are doing and visit more. Yes, we want you to be barraged by people who need you, because you have something so wonderful to offer, to share, to give. And I thank you. I just personally thank you, because I would not know this without you.
Absolutely.
I would not know this. I would not have this knowledge without you. So thank you so very, very much. And it gives me something to share with people.
Yeah.
I'm just going to send it to you, but that's
Thank
okay.
you so much for having us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So each one of you, again, how do people get in contact with you? We're going to start with you, Rebecca, and go down. How do people get in touch with you, Rebecca?
At this time, my email, rebecca.countrypleasures@gmail.com.
All righty.
Or on Facebook, Rebecca Babcock Finch.
Okay. Adlania.
So people can email me, care@Marlins Miracles, and Marlins is MARLANS miracles.com. They can also reach me by phone at 888-660-0383. We are also on Facebook. If you type in my first name and spell it correctly, you should find me on Facebook, because there's this many. And we do also have a Facebook page, Marlon's Miracles Facebook page as well. So, and our website.
All righty then, Miss Franny.
Well, good evening. Yeah, reach out and find me. We're really everywhere. So a Google search for Franny, F-R-A-N-N-Y, and pharmacy is F-A-R-M. Put in the farm and pharmacy. We're everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. We've got great YouTube station everywhere. But try us online at frannyspharmacy.com. Try our products. You can find me personally, Franny Tacey, on social media, and our farm, Franny's Farm, too.
All righty now, Miss Jennifer.
Yes. Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn at Dr. Jennifer Anderson. There's lots of Jennifer Andersons. So you'll see me and my son there. And on Instagram at Confessions of a Single Doctor Mom. And my website that patients and physicians and everybody kind of use to reach out, it's Dr. Jennifer Anderson CannabisMD.com. I named it that so that you could Google search me and find me, and my patients always can get a hold of me.
All righty now, Joe.
Hello, yes. So we are in Columbus, Ohio at 14 West Pacemont, right north of OSU campus, and we can be reached by phone 614-407-4420, or you can reach out via Gmail, which is cbdhemphealth@gmail, and that's the same as our website, cbdhemphealth.com.
All right. Well, thank you all for educating us, the people that we're going to be sharing this with. Just thank you, because education is power.
Yes, it is.
Amen.
That is so true.
Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.